Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another one of our Snackables sessions. My name is Ryan Anderson, and I am the Associate Dean for Entrepreneurship and Business here at Mohawk College. I'm really excited to be joined by two very good friends of mine and two fantastic business owners that I know will have a lot for us to talk about today. Today's topic is actually burnout. And this is something that is a bit of a right turn from some of the things that we've been talking about on our snackable sessions, but it's a really important one. As an entrepreneur, I know I've been one and I felt it. The topic of burnout and exhaustion is a very real one, and it's one that entrepreneurs are always challenged with and have to actually work to overcome. So we're going to have a conversation about that today. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to ERIN MCCLUSKEY and Max Francis. ERIN, I'll start with you. Just introduce yourself and what you're up to, and then I'll go to Max.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Hi, I'm Erin. I am a partner and the creative director at a design firm in Hamilton called the Laundry Design Works, where we do everything from branding to graphic design, video production, marketing, and website design and development.
Hi, Max.
All right. Hi, I'm Max Francis. I am the founder and owner of a company called True Hamiltonian. We basically do what would be considered Hamilton pride wear. So if you love your community, we're the company you come to.
So I think you've seen them all over the place. You see them at at ball games, and you see them. I know in our bookstore you've got them, and it's we talked in an earlier session before about guerrilla marketing and having them all over the place, and it's something that Max, you've done really well. I also know there's been challenges for you too, and I know the last couple of years have been challenging, and the last couple of years have been challenging for every entrepreneur. And as much as entrepreneurship can be exciting, it can be invigorating, it can be something that just fuels you. And I don't know many people that have energy like you do at all. Erin and I had 3 coffees before we got on this, just so we can match it with your energy. But I'm sure there's been times when it's been a challenge for you, when you kind of gone to bed at night going and saying, I'm not sure about tomorrow. Can you talk a little bit about burnout, what that meant to you, and how you sort of tried to work around it?
Absolutely. And I have had a few of those nights where I went to bed thinking, oh man, I don't know what I'm going to do in the morning. I think we all have. If you're running your own business, you are not guaranteed a steady paycheck at all. So every day you have to figure out how I'm going to make the money I need to pay my bills. And some days you do, and many days you do not. So burnout is a natural progression from that. One of the things I do personally to try to get over that is good night's sleep. I don't answer any messages or emails past a certain time, because I tend to find that I get grumpier at night, and I'm a morning person. So if I leave them for first thing in the morning, they get the best version of me. So I don't want to give them the grumpy, tired version of me. The other thing I do is I try to take at least one day per week, and that's a me day. So I just lie around and watch TV or go for whatever you need to do to recharge your battery. You do that. So those are 2 of my tricks for avoiding burnout or managing burnout.
See, I didn't know that. So I've got 2 lessons now I've learned myself, Max. Number 1, don't text you at night. And number 2, Erin, from now on, when we do these things, we'll do them late in the afternoon, so that we can sort of match that. Because I didn't know that this is the morning when we may be in trouble, right? So, Erin, how about thanks, Max? How about you, Erin? Can we talk a little bit about burnout and maybe when you felt it, what you've tried to do?
Gosh, burnout. I'm so glad we're talking about this. I think it's such an important discussion. I'm embarrassed to say that I think I'm old enough now that when I first graduated, burnout wasn't a discussion at all. It just wasn't something that was, even talked about. And, it was the mindset of like, the harder you hustle, the more successful you are. And obviously that narrative's changing. And I think that's fantastic, because I think for me, the first step, coming from a culture of like, work harder is even recognizing those signs of burnout. And, for me, it was exactly what Max was saying, cranky, snapping, often crying in some cases. And I think, it becomes very hard as a business owner when everyone's kind of, you feel a little bit like everyone's watching what you do next, and watching, what successes you have, and judging what failures you have. And I think that can cause you just to not stop and keep going and try harder and harder. But in reality, that's never going to be good, right? You're just going to end up breaking down. And And I think, gosh, I couldn't even tell you an isolated incident where I felt burnout. I think it happens in a variety of different ways, multiple times a week. And I think it's, just forcing myself to take time away from the office and do anything but work. And I remember reading a quote a couple of years ago, and I'm so sad to say, I think that it really is true now, where it said offline is the new luxury. And that's truly how I take time off now, is by putting the phone down, closing the laptop and just doing anything other than work.
It's interesting, Erin. Sort of before going back in academics, I was in the similar world, and the one thing I can say to you is I never knew how stressed I was or how close I was to burning out, because I just wouldn't stop. And the minute I felt tired, that just meant I had to go faster. I had to work harder, and I had to get around that. And sometimes your mental health, your physical health has a way of sneaking up on you and telling you, no, now it's time to stop. And now it's time to regroup. And I think the trick to doing this as an entrepreneur is to realize that before your body tells you that, and really realize what lets you check out too. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree. And I also think it's important, when you get to a size where you have employees that are working for you, you certainly want to lead by an example that will be good for them, right? So if they see you kind of just destroying yourself and burning out, it's a horrible example to set for, a culture of a company, right? You really want to, allow them the mental health days, I believe, allow them to have their full weekend off, not force them to work, later than 5 o'clock, and just make sure that they have that work-life balance as well. So it's one thing to talk about it even for ourselves, but I think as entrepreneurs, we also have to be really conscious of the example we're setting for other people that are watching us in the community and also working for us.
Erin, that's really interesting, because in all these sessions, we haven't talked a lot about our employees, because we really focus a ton on entrepreneurship and getting started, which is obviously the priority. But, one of the things that I know that we were saying in some of our sessions last year is that as an entrepreneur, you are the leader to people if you've hired employees. And if they don't see you right, it's not inspiring for them to want to be you, and you always want your employees to want to be you in the future. And B, it's almost impossible for us to be good to our employees if we're not well ourselves. And it's very hard for us to have discussions and be leaders to our employees if we're feeling anxiety, if we're feeling stress, or we're feeling burnout. And it's being an entrepreneur is one of the biggest, hardest leadership jobs in the world. You're acting half the time, aren't you? You really are. And it's something that I think is a great message for us to bring out to our group today, is that, you need to be well for your people as much as you need to be well for yourself as well, isn't it? So really interesting. Max, is there a time when you've really felt that burnout, and you've really felt that, like, I got nothing left to give? Can you tell us a little bit about that, and what you do, and how do you sort of get around that?
I think for me, it basically boiled down to what Erin said. When you have major achievements, or you have major milestones, and everyone's watching, and they're like, what's he going to do next? What's the next big thing? And you don't have anything. You're like, whoa, that was it. That was my big moment. Now you're asking for the next thing. So I think trying to top yourself or get to the next level can lead to major burnout, where you're just like sitting there like, I got nothing else. Like this was my big reveal, and now everyone's looking for the next big thing, and you just feel that pressure. You feel that all the eyes are on you, and I think that's one of the major things that can lead to stress and burnout, like trying to top yourself, or trying to top what you've already done.
Interesting. Erin, would you agree?
Oh yeah, sorry, I was probably nodding too much, but I can't emphasize what Max is saying enough. Like, it's really true, and I have to ask, like, is it ourselves putting this pressure, as entrepreneurs, to kind of achieve that next thing? We might feel people are watching all the time, but are they really? So I think having talks like these, and everyone being open about how they're feeling is really, really helpful. Because I really do believe that often, I know personally that, I'll launch something and make a big announcement, and people are like, oh, okay, cool. But like, in reality, I've been up for like weeks and nights, and, it's so much more important to ourselves, I think. And I think everyone else is almost more forgiving from the outside than we are on ourselves.
It's interesting. I've learned you're never as big as you think you are,
Totally.
but you're never as small as you want to be. So sometimes in a lot of ways you do have that paradox, don't you? You know, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I will always say that, you know, when I was a kid, I would have dinner with my father's business every night. And if it was a good day at work, it was a great dinner. If it was a bad day at work, it was that quiet sort of dinner. And I know in my own, you know, pre-academic life, I found my way doing that with my own kids sometimes too. You know, I want to eat and I'm going to wait and I'm going to be quiet when I get home. And there is that side of work-life balance that we really have to be careful of, isn't there? So Max, I'll start with you. You know, what do you do to try and keep that work-life balance? Have you seen it impact you sometimes? And if it has, what do you do to kind of try and fix that?
Well, I have a different perspective on this. I think what happens with a lot of parents is they shelter their kids. They constantly make everything seem like it's okay. Everything's going great. Whether they can pay the mortgage or not, they try to make the kids think everything's fantastic. I have a different approach. I'm like, you know what? Give it to them just the way it is. Just be open and honest with them and let them know that no matter what, I'm going to be here. Like, if we're homeless, we're going to be homeless together. So I think sheltering kids does a huge disservice to them. I think they kind of grow up in this bubble where they're really naive to what the world is really like. So I think you can give them the real goods, but you got to feed it to them in small amounts so that they can handle it.
Interesting. What do you do? It's interesting perspective, because I think sometimes you get home after having a stressful day leading people, and you have to get more stressed leading your family too, right? But you know, what have you done yourself to sort of maintain that separation? I know you mentioned about electronics and having that one day off. You know, what has that done to you? How has that helped you?
I'm the worst. I actually don't have any separation between my personal and work life. It's all one big jumble. Me and my daughter, we do the work stuff together. We do the home stuff. It's literally all one big jumble. So I'm a really bad example of keeping the two entities separate.
It's interesting when you and I had a conversation last year in one of our sessions. I said, "Would you ever get your daughter into your business?" And you jumped on the table and pounded and said, "No, no way, you wouldn't go and do it." Right? It's interesting. I just kind of came back to me. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I want her to do something a little different than what I'm doing.
Got it. Erin, how about you with work-life balance? I mean, I know, Max, you may not know this, but Erin is one of the best softball players I've ever seen.
Oh, wow.
And she's going to be very, very, very embarrassed by that. But I know that's been important to you, Erin, as far as exercise goes and different things. You know, what else do you do to try and maintain that sort of work-life balance?
It's really hard. I definitely relate to the conversations of just always being on. And I think that is the whole challenge with being an entrepreneur, is that it is very much a part of you. This isn't something that you're kind of going to work and leaving at 5 and going home, as much as you try and do that. I think it becomes so ingrained in you, it becomes part of yourself, and it's very hard not to always be with it. But I really have had to work on my separation, and on the weekends I truly try and only check email a few times or not at all, and get outside and see family and see friends, and do things like, you know, play ball or go for a bike ride. And, you know, something really interesting happens when I force myself to do this, and I think it's a really important message, is you end up coming in on Monday feeling way more fulfilled. You often have different experiences and different perspectives to draw on to handle some of those challenges that you were faced with on the Friday before the weekend. And even just talking to people you don't see every day that's associated with your work just gives you, you know, new ideas, different perspective, different ways of looking at things. So even though it feels like you might be neglecting the business, you're actually, I think, doing yourself way more of a service when it comes to that following week by checking out.
And I would suggest that as entrepreneurs, because your life is your business, because the business is yours, you sort of have that detachment concern when you do check out for a day as well, because you feel as if I'm not there, the whole world's going to sort of fall apart. And what I've learned in my history is often it actually is just fine. it's just fine when you come back.
Yeah.
And that's,
You're right.
it really is. I mean, sometimes you're not, as I said, you're not as big as you think you are. There are people that, I also think when we talk about employees, sometimes you have to let them take the reins too. And sometimes you have to go and empower them to go and say, you know what, you're just as good as me, and let me know what you can do. So I think that's that in itself, I think, helps with work-life balance as well, is to have employees that you know that you can trust as well.
Very true. Very true.
So I'll end this session, Max. I'll turn over to you and then Erin. I always like to do this. What is the one tip that you would give our folks out there for maintaining work-life balance and avoiding burnout?
Keep your friends and family close. They're super important. And they're the ones that are going to help you get through everything.
Love it. Erin?
And yeah, I would say, if you can, schedule yourself into some sort of extracurricular, so you have to be somewhere at a certain time, and it'll force you to actually go there and do that thing.
So what you're saying is to avoid being scheduled at work, schedule yourself with something outside of work.
A little bit, yeah. That's not work.
I love it. I love it. Well, Max, Erin, once again, thank you so very much. And this is a topic that I know to the three of us is extremely important. And this is something that I really appreciate the openness. I appreciate the what you've offered our participants today. And I look forward to talking to you again really soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, guys. Take care.